The distant stars glimmered in the vast darkness of space, as they always had. The galaxy, with its sprawling civilizations and ancient empires, seemed timeless. Yet even within the deep void, where the tides of fate were dictated by forces beyond comprehension, a disturbance had rippled through the fabric of the cosmos, a disturbance that had set in motion a chain of events that would shake the universe itself. It all began on the quiet, forgotten world of Alara 9, a planet on the fringes of known space. In the farthest corner of a star system, where few ships dared to travel, a message had been sent, a signal, a desperate call for help. An SOS, broadcast across the void, carrying with it a sense of urgency so raw, so desperate, that it could not be ignored. It was a plea for survival, a cry to the galaxy that something had gone horribly wrong. The message was simple, but its implications were far-reaching. It was transmitted by a human vessel, a civilian freighter that had drifted off course and into the clutches of a merciless alien force known for their brutal methods of conquest. The signal was filled with fear and panic, the voice of the crew barely able to hold it together as they begged for aid. "Help, please, we're being attacked, we can't hold out much longer, they're boarding us." The message reached across countless light years, through countless systems, until it reached the ears of those who would answer. Those who had been waiting in the darkness for a call like this. The Deathworlders. In the grim corners of space, where the law was written in blood and survival was the only currency that mattered, the Deathworlder fleet was a legend. A fleet of ships unlike any other, commanded by humans and their allies, born of the most brutal environments imaginable. Their home planets were worlds where life was a constant struggle, where every day was a battle against the forces of nature, where every creature, from the smallest insect to the mightiest predator, had been shaped by survival in a harsh, unforgiving ecosystem. And the humans who came from such worlds? They were the apex predators of that existence, tough, relentless, and unstoppable. The Deathworlder fleet was not known for diplomacy or negotiation. They didn't make deals, they didn't take prisoners, and they certainly didn't abide by the rules of galactic politics. They existed outside of those boundaries, operating on their own terms. And when the SOS came through, it was a signal that this fleet would answer no matter what the cost. When the first ships arrived in orbit above Alara 9, the sight was nothing short of terrifying. The fleet didn't just arrive with overwhelming force, they arrived with a chilling, deliberate calmness. The ships were enormous, towering behemoths of war that seemed to swallow the stars around them. The vessels of the Deathworlder fleet were sleek, terrifying, designed for one purpose: annihilation. Their hulls were reinforced with metals that could withstand the most punishing of blows, their weapons capable of reducing entire fleets to dust. And their crews? They were the best of the best human soldiers, fighters, and warlords who had been forged in the fires of the most inhospitable environments in the galaxy. They had faced beasts that made even the fiercest predators of other worlds look like prey, and they had emerged victorious. The fleet's arrival sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but it was not just the power of their ships that struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. It was the humans themselves, their reputation for being relentless, unyielding, and utterly unforgiving. They were a force that could not be reasoned with. They were the ones who fought for survival not because they had to, but because they knew nothing else. And when they fought with everything they had. Captain Gabriel Steele, leader of the Deathworlder fleet, stood at the helm of the flagship Relentless Fury. His reputation had spread far and wide, feared by enemies and respected by allies. He had lived through wars, had faced down countless threats, and had emerged victorious every time. But now, as he stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the small, struggling freighter below, there was a cold, steely resolve in his eyes. "This is our mission, Captain," his first officer, Lieutenant Nia Serrano, said quietly, her gaze fixed on the screen before them. The signal was clear. The freighter is under attack. We need to move in and neutralize the threat. Captain Steele's jaw tightened. Not yet. Not until we know exactly who we're dealing with. There's more to this than just a pirate raid. I want all sensors active. Full scans of the freighter and the surrounding space. Nia nodded. Understood, sir. The crew moved efficiently, their training and experience apparent in every motion. The Relentless Fury was a ship built for war, but it was also built for precision. Every member of the crew knew their role. The Deathworlders didn't need to discuss tactics, they acted as one, instinctively. Minutes ticked by in silence, the tension mounting with every passing second. The distress signal had been sent hours ago, and the longer they waited, the more desperate the situation became. But Steele knew better than to rush in without understanding the full scope of the threat. As the scans were completed, a clearer picture began to form. What they had initially assumed to be a pirate attack was something far worse. The freighter wasn't just under siege by a rogue faction, it was being targeted by one of the most ruthless alien species in the galaxy, the Zorath. Known for their savagery, the Zorath had a reputation for pillaging and slaughtering without remorse. Their ships were built for terror, and their warriors were brutal, feared by all who encountered them. The humans, in their infinite capacity for survival, had fought the Zorath before, but never on this scale. It was clear now that the freighter had stumbled into the wrong corner of the galaxy at the wrong time. And they were going to pay the price. But the Deathworlder fleet was ready. Steele's hand hovered over the console, ready to issue the order that would send his forces into battle. But before he could do so, an unexpected transmission crackled through his communications channel. It was the freighter's captain, human, female, her voice ragged and strained. "Please," the captain begged, her voice breaking with fear. "We don't want to be a problem. We don't want any more bloodshed. We're just trying to survive. Please, leave her." Steele's heart clenched at the desperation in her tone, and for a moment he hesitated. The words that followed echoed in his mind, heavy with meaning. "Leave her." For a moment, Steele was silent, staring at the comm screen, as if trying to make sense of the plea. Leave her? What did that mean? Who was her? The ship? The captain? Nia looked at him, concern flashing in her eyes. "Sir, should we engage?" "Not yet," Steele said, his voice cold. "Get me a direct line to the freighter's captain. I want answers." Within moments, the transmission was established, and Steele's eyes met the face of the freighter's captain. She looked worn, terrified, but there was something else in her eyes, something that Steele could recognize as fear of something far greater than even the Zorath. "You said something about leave her," Steele said, his tone firm, yet filled with a tinge of curiosity. "What did you mean?" The freighter's captain swallowed hard, as if gathering the strength to speak. "You don't understand," she said softly, almost pleading. "There's something aboard this ship, something the Zorath want. We can't protect it. We can't keep it safe. But you must leave her." Steele narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" The captain's gaze shifted nervously, and for the first time, she looked away from the screen. "Please, you don't understand. It's not just about us. It's about her. She's something more than you can imagine. The Zorath will stop at nothing to get to her. And if you try to fight them, if you try to take her, there will be no one left to save." Steele's mind raced. What had she meant by her? And why was this woman, this captain, so afraid of the truth? Why was she so afraid to allow the Deathworlders to take action? "We're coming in," Steele said, his voice steady. "You've sent the signal. Now, we finish this." But the captain shook her head, her eyes wide with terror. "No. Please, don't. I beg you. Leave her." The words hung in the air, the tension unbearable. Steele's mind churned with thoughts he couldn't reconcile. There was something else happening here. Something beyond the Zorath. And it was clear that whatever it wasn't something the captain was willing to reveal. "Lieutenant," Steele said, his voice low but commanding, "prepare the fleet. We're going in. But we move cautiously. I want answers before we engage the enemy." The words were final, and as the fleet began to move into position, Steele's mind could not escape the nagging feeling that there was more to this than a simple pirate raid. Whatever the captain was hiding, whatever was aboard that freighter, the truth would soon be uncovered. And when it was, the galaxy would never be the same again. As the Deathworlder fleet moved closer to the freighter, Steele couldn't shake the words of the captain from his mind. Leave her. What had they been sent to protect? What could possibly be so important that a human captain would beg for their help and then turn it away in the same breath? The answer was closer than he realized. And when they found it, nothing could prepare them for what was about to unfold. The relentless Fury cruised into the vicinity of the freighter, its sensors scanning every inch of the small vessel in a way that made its crew seem like insects under a magnifying glass. The human fleet was terrifyingly efficient, and every movement was deliberate. Steele watched the live feed from the tactical display as his fleet began to encircle the freighter, cutting off any potential escape routes. The Zorath ships, which had been looming nearby, scattered like insects before a flame, clearly aware of the Deathworlder fleet's arrival. Yet the fear in the captain's voice haunted Steele. Leave her. The words rattled around in his brain like a persistent echo. What was so important about that single word? Who was she? The comms crackled, pulling him from his thoughts. It was the captain of the freighter again, her voice hoarse. Please, you don't understand what you're dealing with. If you bring your fleet any closer, you will condemn us all. Leave her. Steele's jaw clenched. The captain's desperation was palpable, but it was also a challenge. There was something about the way she spoke, the pleading in her voice, that struck him deep. He wasn't just dealing with a terrified civilian, he was dealing with someone who had seen something horrifying, something they couldn't yet comprehend. Lieutenant Serrano, Steele ordered, his voice commanding. Open a secure channel with the freighter. We need to know exactly what's going on down there. Nia nodded without question and tapped the controls. The connection established, and now, on the main screen of the bridge, the freighter's captain appeared again. Her face was pale, eyes wide with fear. Look, I know you're trying to help, but this isn't just about us anymore, she said, her voice quivering. The Zorath, they've been hunting her for years. I don't know who or what she is, but I've seen what they'll do to get her. I've seen entire colonies burned to the ground, and people turned into monsters just to get to her. If you fight them, if you engage them, there will be no one left to save. Not us, not you, not anyone. Steele's mind raced. He had never heard of anything that could incite such fear in a species known for its brutality. Even the Zorath, while savage, had a reputation for knowing the value of self-preservation. But this was something deeper, something darker. His voice was calm but filled with authority. You're asking me to stand down and do nothing while you're under attack. You're asking me to abandon my fleet, my men, my mission. Why? Why should we leave you here, alone, with nothing but the threat of annihilation hanging over you? The captain's expression darkened, and for the first time, she seemed to show a flicker of something other than fear, guilt, perhaps. Because it's not just about survival. It's about protecting her. And if you fight the Zorath, if you engage them, you won't just risk our lives, you'll risk the entire galaxy. Steele felt the weight of her words land like a blow to his chest. What is she? Who is she? The captain hesitated, her eyes darting around as if considering whether she should speak at all. Finally, her voice dropped to a whisper, so low that it barely reached the comms. She's human. She's not like the rest of us, though. Not like you. She's something else. Something that shouldn't exist. The captain's words sent a ripple of confusion through Steele. A human? Not like the rest of them? The Deathworlder fleet had been forged by humans. There was no such thing as a human that wasn't tough, relentless, and trained to survive against the worst the universe had to offer. What could be different about this one? His thoughts were interrupted by a sharp signal from his tactical officer. Captain, the Zorath are making their move. They're aligning to attack the freighter. Damn it, Steele muttered, his mind now at a crossroads. His instincts screamed at him to act, engage the enemy, protect the freighter, and destroy the Zorath vessels before they could escalate further. But there was something deeply unsettling about the captain's words, something that pulled at him in ways he couldn't fully explain. Steele looked out the viewports at the distant freighter, now sitting helplessly amidst the vast emptiness. Every part of him wanted to destroy the Zorath, to defend the ship as he had countless times before. But this was different. "Lieutenant Serrano, hold our position," Steele ordered. "Prepare the fleet for engagement, but no actions yet. I need to understand what's going on here before we do anything else." Nia gave a sharp nod. "Understood, sir." The crew fell into a tense silence as they waited, the heartbeat of the ship pulsing with the looming uncertainty. The Zorath ships slowly shifted into formation, their weapons bristling as they prepared to strike. Steele could see them in the distance, predatory, hungry, like wolves circling a herd. But the wolves weren't the only danger on the horizon. "The captain is right about one thing," Steele murmured to himself. "If we fight them without knowing what we're up against, we might be walking into a trap." He stood, walking over to the holographic tactical map, deep in thought. What was the real threat here? The Zorath were dangerous, but they didn't operate this way without a purpose. They had to know something about the human woman on board that the rest of the galaxy didn't. But why? What made her so valuable? His mind wandered back to the captain's words, "She's not like the rest of us, though. Not like you. She's something else." The weight of those words bore down on him like an invisible force, and suddenly, everything felt heavier. The stakes weren't just about protecting a ship anymore. They weren't about just keeping the fleet intact. This was about something far greater, something that could shake the very foundations of everything the Deathworlder fleet stood for. "Captain?" Lieutenant Serrano's voice broke through his reverie. "We've received another transmission from the freighter. It's different. It's coming from the person on board." Steele's heart skipped a beat. "Put it through." The comm screen flickered to life, but this time, it wasn't the freighter's captain. It was someone else, someone who didn't appear at all like the crew Steele had seen before. The figure on the screen was a woman, with striking features that bore the unmistakable mark of human ancestry. But there was something wrong, something that made her presence disturbingly alien. She was calm, too calm, her eyes filled with a depth that Steele could not comprehend. Her voice was smooth, almost otherworldly. "Captain Steele," she said, her tone serene. "I know you are coming to my rescue, and I am grateful. But I must warn you, if you choose to engage the Zorath, you will be fighting more than just them. You will be fighting something much older, much darker. You will be fighting the very nature of existence itself." Steele's blood ran cold. Her words were laced with a weight that made the room feel like it was closing in on him. Every instinct screamed for him to end the transmission, to dismiss her as an anomaly, but something in her gaze held him, rooted him in place. "Who are you?" Steele asked, his voice steady despite the growing fear he felt. The woman's eyes softened as she answered, her gaze distant. "I am the last of a forgotten lineage. A lineage that predates your kind, Captain. My people were scattered, hunted, erased from history, but I survived. I am her, the one the Zorath have been searching for. And now they will stop at nothing to claim me because they know what I can do." Steele's pulse quickened. What could she possibly mean by that? And why were the Zorath so intent on capturing her? He could feel the weight of her words, and the implications were enormous. He had entered a situation he didn't fully understand, a web of secrets, lies, and dangers far beyond anything he had encountered before. "Tell me what's going on," Steele demanded, his voice colder now. "Tell me what I'm up against." The woman's gaze darkened. "The Zorath are not the true enemy. They are pawns in a much larger game. I am the key. If they capture me, the universe will fall." Steele's mind reeled. "What are you talking about?" "I am the last of the Zyrax. A species that existed long before humanity. We once shaped the very fabric of this galaxy. But we were wiped out by an ancient enemy, an enemy that the Zorath serve. If they take me, the galaxy will fall into their hands. Her words hit Steele like a physical blow. He knew that whatever he had stumbled upon here, it was not just a rescue mission. It was the beginning of something much, much larger. And the fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance. He straightened, his mind already working to adapt to the new reality that had just been revealed to him. The Zoroth were no longer the primary threat. The true enemy, whoever or whatever they were, was a shadow that loomed over everything, and it was up to him and his fleet to stop it before it consumed them all. "Prepare for battle," Steele ordered, his voice resolute. "We're not just saving a ship anymore. We're saving the galaxy." As Steele issued the order to prepare for battle, the atmosphere aboard the Relentless Fury thickened with anticipation. The crew, already battle-hardened and steeled for anything, sensed that this mission had shifted into something far beyond the scope of their previous operations. What had begun as a simple rescue was now a pivotal moment in galactic history. The very survival of the universe as they knew it hung in the balance. The Zoroth ships, sensing their prey nearing an imminent defense, shifted their formation. They were relentless and brutal, their weapons primed to tear apart anything in their path. The Relentless Fury was fully prepared for battle, but Steele couldn't shake the feeling that the true challenge was not the Zoroth, it was the deeper, more shadowy force that had orchestrated this entire situation. "Captain, we've locked onto the Zoroth fleet. They're closing in on the freighter, preparing to board," Lieutenant Serrano reported, her voice tight with concentration. "We're in range to engage." "Your orders?" Steele's gaze was fixed on the tactical display, but his mind was elsewhere. The words of the mysterious woman echoed in his mind. "I am the last of the Zyrax. If they capture me, the galaxy will fall." What did she mean? Who were the Zyrax, and how could one individual have the power to shape the fate of the galaxy? The more he thought about it, the more he realized that this was not just a fight for survival, it was a war for control over the future of the cosmos. The Zoroth were a formidable force, but they were just one piece of a much larger, more dangerous puzzle. And the woman, the one who claimed to be the last of the Zyrax, was at the center of it all. "Captain Steele," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Lieutenant Serrano again, her expression grave. "We've detected something huge approaching from deep space. It's not Zoroth. It's..." Steele's eyes widened. A massive, hulking shadow appeared on the sensors, something that dwarfed even the largest Zoroth vessels. The ship was ancient, its design alien in ways Steele couldn't even begin to understand. It looked like a ghost from another era, and yet it exuded an aura of terrifying power. "Gods above," Steele muttered. "What the hell is that?" Serrano didn't answer immediately, but the display flashed with multiple red warnings. "Captain, I think we've just found our true enemy. This ship, it's not just any warship. It's a Zyrax vessel." The revelation sent a chill through Steele's spine. The Zyrax. The same species the mysterious woman had claimed to belong to. What was this ship doing here, and why had it waited until now to reveal itself? "We need to move fast, Captain," Serrano said urgently. "The Zoroth fleet is moving in to engage the freighter, and this new threat is entering our territory. If we don't act now, we risk being caught between two fires." Steele was already moving. His mind snapped into full battle mode. "Signal the fleet. All ships, prepare for immediate engagement. I want a defensive perimeter around the freighter, and I want that Zoroth fleet neutralized. We'll handle the Zyrax later." The bridge buzzed with activity as crew members snapped to attention. The Deathworlder fleet was nothing if not efficient, and they were ready to fight. They knew how to engage with overwhelming force, to crush anything that stood in their way. As the fleet moved into position, Steele's eyes remained fixed on the Zyrax ship. It was a haunting sight, its jagged edges and ancient markings a testament to the horrors it had witnessed throughout the galaxy's long history. Its presence confirmed everything the woman had said. The Zoroth were not the true enemy, they were merely pawns in a larger, far more terrifying game. "Captain," Nia's voice broke through his thoughts again. "The Zoroth are hailing us." Put them through, Steele ordered, his voice cold. The screen flickered to life, and a Zorath officer appeared on the screen. He was tall and humanoid, his features twisted with the characteristic rage and hunger that defined their species. But what stood out was the gleam of desperation in his eyes. "This is Zorath Commander Tarkith," the officer snarled. "Human vessel, you have no place in this sector. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. We have orders to take the freighter, and we will not be deterred." Steele's gaze hardened. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, Tarkith. You've crossed the line. You want the freighter? You'll have to go through us." Tarkith's eyes narrowed with fury. "You are fools. The Zyrax will not allow you to stand in their way. Your species is insignificant compared to what they are capable of. You cannot win this battle." Steele's lips curled into a cold smile. "We'll see about that." Without waiting for a response, he cut the transmission. "All ships, open fire." The Deathworlder fleet erupted into action, their weapons lighting up the dark void of space in a brilliant blaze. Massive energy cannons fired, each shot striking the Zorath ships with brutal precision. The Zorath, caught off guard by the ferocity of the response, began to return fire, but their weapons were no match for the advanced technology of the Deathworlders. The battle unfolded in a storm of explosions, the remnants of Zorath ships drifting into the cold expanse of space. Meanwhile, Steele's eyes remained focused on the Zyrax ship, its ominous presence growing closer with every passing second. There was no doubt in his mind that this ship wasn't just a warship, it was a harbinger of something far worse. The Zorath had been right about one thing: the Zyrax would not allow anyone to stand in their way. But why had they waited until now to reveal themselves? "Captain," Nia called again, her voice laced with urgency. "The Zyrax ship is moving into position. It's preparing to fire." Steele swore under his breath. They didn't have time to waste. The battle with the Zorath was far from over, and now they had to contend with the threat of the Zyrax as well. The stakes had just been raised exponentially. "Signal the fleet. All ships, focus fire on the Zorath vessels." "I'll take care of the Zyrax," Steele commanded. The ship shook as the battle intensified, and Steele's mind raced through possible strategies. The Zyrax ship was unlike anything they had ever faced. He needed to find a way to buy time, to create a momentary advantage. "Lieutenant, are we in range to launch a full barrage at the Zyrax ship?" "Just about, Captain," Nia replied. "We have a clear shot." Steele clenched his fists. "All ships, target the Zyrax vessel. Full barrage in 3, 2, 1. The void of space erupted as every ship in the fleet fired at once, unleashing a torrent of energy blasts. The Zyrax ship seemed to absorb the hits with disturbing calmness, its shields flickering but holding. It was clear that this enemy was far more resilient than anything they had ever faced. But Steele didn't give up. He wouldn't give up. The future of the galaxy depended on what they did here and now. His crew, his fleet, had fought their way to this moment. There was no turning back. "Focus everything we've got on its core," Steele ordered. "I want that ship disabled, now." The Relentless Fury and the other ships of the fleet adjusted their fire, concentrating on the Zyrax ship's central core. Sparks flew from the alien vessel, and its shields began to flicker in a desperate attempt to withstand the barrage. But the human fleet's firepower was relentless. No ship, no matter how ancient or powerful, could withstand their might forever. Then, in a flash of brilliant light, the Zyrax ship's core erupted in a shockwave that rocked the battlefield. But instead of being destroyed, it seemed to collapse inward, its power source flaring in a way that sent shockwaves across the sector. Steele's heart skipped a beat. What the hell? Before he could issue another order, a voice came through his comms, cutting through the chaos. "Captain Steele, you have no idea what you've just unleashed." It was the mysterious woman, and her voice was filled with an unmistakable dread. The galaxy had just stepped into a much darker chapter, and Steele could only brace himself for what was coming next. Steele's hand tightened on the armrest of his chair as the relentless fury lurched forward. The calm before the storm was over. The battle with the Zorath and the threat of the Zyrax was only the beginning. The true enemy, the one the galaxy had long forgotten, was about to make its presence known. And when it did, nothing would be the same again. The galaxy, for all its vastness and wonder, had never faced a threat like this.